Hello.
Welcome to our YouTube channel.
Welcome to Transparent with the Townsends.
Yeah, guys, we're excited to get into the next part.
The next part of what?
Our journey, guys. We talked about last episode about why we're doing this channel, why we wanted to share about our fertility journey, even though it's not over yet. We're still in the process of it. But we wanted to talk to you guys a little bit more in detail, get into the details of it, show a little bit more, because I won't say we were vague last episode, but we definitely got to like summary of certain things. And so we want to kind of start from like the beginning, get into details, show you, we kind of share more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, we're going to tell all our business, basically.
Say it like that.
We are, though. I mean, let's
it's
be honest.
transparent.
Yep, you're right. So last episode, I think we kind of talked about like a little bit about the beginning of our story, like in regards to how we first got off of birth control, and it really wasn't about trying to have a baby at the time. It was just because my body needed to get back to normal. And I mean, we obviously knew like what the options were.
Right.
Like we weren't using any birth control, so we knew like it was possible we could get pregnant, but I don't think that was something we were really focused on like the first maybe like 6 months.
Yeah, it wasn't really the main driving point. We weren't like, oh, let's get pregnant. It was
Yeah.
very much just kind of like, you're off birth control, it's a possibility, you know, what's going to happen?
Yeah. Like, honestly, I think some part of me, and I guess this was because of what I had been told, like it took a while for your body to really return back to normal. So some part of me like didn't even believe I could get pregnant like right away. Like if I stopped taking birth control, I didn't think like, oh, I'm going to get pregnant now. Like, nope.
I didn't know that. See, so I was...
You didn't know what? You didn't know it was possible?
I didn't know it was not possible, or not likely that you would get pregnant immediately. So I was mentally dealing with a lot of...
You were stressed out.
Stress and pressure and, and fear there. So that was my first 6 months. Her, like, I'm pretty sure it was probably real easy going.
I was chill. I just didn't... I don't know. I think we weren't really properly informed. Like, I don't think I knew anybody who had, like, actually actively tried to get pregnant. Like, not on purpose. Most people, I think I know, just got pregnant accidentally.
Yeah, that's
maybe, like, 1 or 2 people, but no one really told us, like, oh, this is what you do, or... I think there was just a lot of, like, no truth, really. Like, everybody was like, oh, this could happen, this, you know... just try.
I think that's fair.
Yeah.
I think that's very fair.
Yeah, so I really was very ignorant going into it. I just thought, oh, okay, it'll take a minute, so whatever.
Mind you, we did not share with everybody that we were on birth control or anything like that, so it's not like...
We were off birth control or on?
I mean, we didn't share that we were on or off.
You're right.
So it's kind of like, it's one of those things where people aren't unaware, obviously, that makes it... You can't really say, hey, we're gonna get truth, when we weren't.
You're right, we weren't truthful.
Sharing all our truth.
Yeah. I think I had told maybe like, well, not right away, but I think I had told probably my best friend, and I think I had told my sister like a little bit after, like maybe a month or so after we got off. Maybe like 2 months or so. I was just like, well, yeah, because she was working at my doctor's office at the time, so I think she knew when I didn't get a refill on my birth control, my prescription. She was my doctor, so I had to be like, yeah, so I don't need it anymore. I don't need birth control. But yeah, I think like the first 6 months was still fun for us.
Yeah, it was still fun. I mean, even though I had a little bit of stress, I was still having fun. Like, I'm not gonna deny that. Ignorance is in itself a little bit blissful. Not
sometimes.
It's not a great thing to be ignorant, but when you sometimes
Yeah, actually, yeah, because if I would have gotten pregnant, I would have probably been shocked. Like, oh, I thought everybody said it was gonna take a minute. Yeah, I don't think at that time I was like, I want to get pregnant, but of course that all changed. I think when I don't know what came first. So like I think like about 6 months in. Either I had my annual OBGYN checkup first, or I'm going to say I went to the OBGYN first.
I think you did.
So I went to my gynecologist, and it was just like, oh, regular checkup. I think I got a a physical. She checked everything out. And, of course, they ask you all the questions like, oh, are you sexually active? Are you on birth control? And, of course, my answer was no. So she was like, are you trying to get pregnant? And I think that was like the first time I ever
thought about it?
Really voiced it. Like, yes. Because I remember feeling like a little confused in my head. Like, well, yeah, but no. Like, yeah, I guess we are trying. So after I told her, yeah, we were trying, she started recommending things to me to do. Like, I think it was like have sex, cycle. So for those of you who don't know, have never like tried to conceive or TTC, there's a cycle, it's a process, like, for the women, men, know your body.
I learned more, yeah.
So cycle day 12, I think, cycle day 14 and cycle day 16, she said make sure you have sex on those days because that's supposed to be like the prime time for ovulation, and obviously you need to ovulate to get pregnant. So she told me that. I think she told me to buy like real ovulation test strips instead of using like apps and Flow to track, because those things can be inaccurate. So she told me that, and like of course I bought all that stuff and like fertility friendly lube, and like at that point we started, like we were on the TTC train. Like we were, okay, this is what we're doing, this is what we're going for. Yeah, it was a little like overwhelming.
I will say that.
I think.
She definitely came back and she was like,
we're doing.
We need this, we need this, we need this. Now she's kind of like, whoa, what's going on? Slow down for a second.
Yeah. Which is crazy because I think, I don't know if I had fully processed, like, I want to have a baby. I think it was just, okay, so this is where we're headed. Like, we're going to have children, so my doctor says, do these things and you'll get pregnant. So it was like, okay, that's where I'm at. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And then I want to say it was like that same month that my period was late by like about 3 or 4 days. And I think like day 2, day 3, I was like, okay, this is weird. Because ever since I had gotten off birth control, my periods had been regular. So it was like a very consistent schedule. So knowing that I wasn't on birth control, I was like, oh.
I was lost in that process. Mostly just because I mean your period like had between the moments of birth control wasn't always the same period. It would shift.
When I was on birth control, yeah.
And then when you came off, it shifted again. So I was kind of like, I don't know when her period's coming, which, that always affects things, right? Because mood shifts and all that stuff. Well,
like no, it didn't shift. Like, my period got regular after I got off birth control.
No, I'm saying it shifted from what it was when you were
on birth control. Like how crazy it was.
Yeah, so then I had to adjust back to that.
Yeah.
And then I didn't even realize that you had, not had your period yet. Because
I didn't tell him. I was looking at my Flow app, and I was like, okay, it says that I should probably test in a day because my period's late. And I was like, okay, well, I'll give it another day and we'll see. So I think like day 3, day 4, it might have been like day 4 because I think it was like flashing, like time to take a pregnancy test. And I was like, okay. So I think day 4, I finally told you like, hey, my period's late and I'm going to buy these pregnancy tests. And yeah. Do you remember? I was like freaking out.
You were freaking out.
And that was the first time I had ever bought a pregnancy test. First of all, I didn't even go in the store and buy it. I did curbside pickup. I think at Target, and it was the one with the 3 tests in it from whatever that brand is, the popular brand. And like when I picked it up and I looked in the bag, I was like, whoa. Like, what are we doing here? What is this? This is mine? So, yep, I came home and I was like, okay.
Super panicking.
I was panicking. Like, I think something dumb happened. I did something dumb. I think like I gave you the test, or I put the test down and I was like, all right, come on, you're going to come with me to take it. And then I was walking to the bathroom.
You
were like, it was like, how are you going to do it without the test?
Right.
Like, you left the test over there.
I was so confused. I was like, what are we doing?
How did you you feel? You were not panicked?
I think
You were
I
not
was.
afraid?
I was. So it hadn't actually hit me yet, because you were just like, my period's late. I'm about to take a pregnancy test, and I was just like, wait, what? What is this? What does all this mean? And I was kind of like, still like, like when someone shares news with you, and like you hear it, but you do, like it doesn't actually fully hit your understanding. It's kind of like, oh, okay, that's cool. And then like they're like, no, you didn't actually hear what I actually said. Like, this is what I said. And then like, then you were like still in your panic, rushing around. Like, she was moving. And then like you left the pregnancy test when someone was going to take the test, and like rushing back there, and I was just like, don't you need it? I'm like, in my mind, it wasn't even like, I didn't have time to react or feel emotion, because like you were just so all over the place that I was just like, I've never seen her like so like all over the place like that.
I was like losing it.
So
like,
for me,
this could be it. This could be it.
I was kind of in shock that you were like that in the first place. That was my first reaction, like, whoa, this is a new side of yourself. And then I think it didn't really set in till like I got you the test, and like you went back, and like you were in the bathroom, and I'm sitting there in the room like, wait, so she might be pregnant. How do you feel about that, Rob? And so that was an internalization, and you were in there for a long time.
Was it? Oh no, long time. The test only take like 3 minutes.
I don't know. To me, it felt like
it felt like a long time because you started panicking.
It felt like 30 minutes.
You started panicking.
It was a slow progression. It was a slow progression.
Funny.
In my mind, time slew down.
Yeah, I'm sure it did.
Because I was definitely just like, okay, she might be pregnant. She might be pregnant. She might be pregnant.
Yeah.
So by the time you came out, I was in panic, frenzy mode.
And the whole time he looked super calm. Like in my head, I was like, why is he so calm about this? Like this could change our entire life right now. Like right now. In 3 minutes.
Yeah, no, 3 minutes. Which felt like 2 hours.
Yeah, okay. So, the end of the story was obviously the pregnancy test was negative.
Right.
And I remember like when I saw the result, I think I felt mostly relief because I just don't know if I was like ready at that particular time. I mean, I think I had a few days at that point to process, like, okay, my period's late. Like, I know what that means, but you know, it could be whatever. But I don't think until I like saw the result that I actually felt like, woo, like, okay. But I know like there was a small part of me that did feel a little sad because I think it was like, the idea that, oh, our life could be changing, like we're about to take the next step of our marriage. And I think at that point people had started asking us like if we were gonna have kids or when we were gonna start trying. But obviously like not a lot of people really knew that we were trying. So I think for me it was like,
There's a few persistent people.
Yeah, a few people who were consistently asking. So I think in my head it was like, oh, we did it. Like if it would have been positive, like, oh, we did it. Look, we're gonna have a family. We're gonna start a family. But I do think like at least 70% of me was like, ooh, I'm not ready. Like I just, not yet. But I do think. Well, how did you feel when the result was?
So we had my whole 3 days of stress moment, if you want to say it like that. 3 days condensed into 3 minutes. Where I panicked. And so I think I kind of came to the point where I accepted, because I was like, well, I mean, obviously your period's late, it's a high chance that you might be pregnant. At least in my mind, I was like, oh, it's a high chance, she's probably pregnant. And so I was kind of expecting the positive, so in my mind I worked out like, Rob, like, what are you afraid of? Like, you're not bad with kids. Like, you're not going to be this horrible father, or you know, you're gonna do good. Like, and then I was also comforted by the fact that I was like, well, you're amazing with kids. You know, I see it when you teach kids. I see it, you know, I saw it when you was teaching the kids at church and stuff like that. So, and then in nursery and stuff like that. So for me, I was always like, I have an amazing wife who's going to be an amazing mother. So for me, that comforted me a lot, and I was like, well, I know I'm good. I'm cool. I'm fun. funny. I'm good. Well,
all of that, you process all of that just in 3 minutes.
Yeah, you did. And I was
3
like,
minutes.
You're gonna be good, Robin. You have a good family support base. So I was like, okay, cool, we'll be good. And so from that, it just kind of processed into, well, yeah, I can accept it. And then when you came out and it was negative, I think the first feeling I felt was like relief, like, ooh, okay. And then it's like split second later, I felt like this loss. I felt like, well, this feeling I had accepted, like the thought process in my mind, because I was envisioning a little bit of like what a family would look like and what it would feel like maybe even to hold our child. I was kind of like, well, I don't have that. So there wasn't necessarily a little bit of loss and some sadness there. But I think I could see that you were feeling a little sad about it. So I won't say I buried it, but I definitely was kind of like, well, you already know how I feel about things. Like, I'm trying to be the rock for you when you need it.
All the time.
Yeah, I've only recently started sharing my deepest feelings. I share stuff with her. I'm not afraid to tell her how I feel about certain stuff. But like sometimes I'm not always sharing like I'm super upset or angry about.
He doesn't necessarily do the best job of sharing his negative feelings.
Yes. Positive feelings, I'm always there. Negative stuff, I'm not trying to share that stuff. Or I wasn't.
Right.
I share it now. But yeah, I didn't let you know I felt sad. I think you might have felt it though, but yeah, that's.
I didn't actually. Like I was like, man, he's super like calm, like about this whole thing. Like he was calm about the
Well, I
test,
achieved
like,
what I thought I needed to do at that time.
Yeah. So I think after that experience, like I definitely felt relief. Obviously my period did come. I think it came like the next day.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, yep, that makes sense. But after that, I think that was when my mind kind of changed about the process of having a kid. Because at that point I had like, I guess, a taste of this desire to get pregnant.
So you were more focused on wanting to have kids at that time?
Yeah, like I think that was like the turning point for me. Whereas before I was like, la-di-da. Like if it happens, it happens. Like I had just bought all the stuff to start trying because of the doctor visit.
Of course,
but
it just came in.
Yeah, because like I was getting ready to get on the train without like actually feeling the emotions of, yes, we're getting ready to do this. But I think once the result came from that test and I had like these, you start like thinking like, oh, what if it's a girl or a boy, or all these things. And I think within that short span of time I had started to do that, and I was like, oh, we could do this. Like, it's okay, we could maybe really try this thing. So at that point was when
it would have been fun.
I know, but like, I was still like scared and freaking out, obviously.
Yeah, we both were, but that's I think that's part of the process. Like,
oh yeah, having kids is a huge change.
It's a big change
when you don't have any.
It's unknown. Well, it's funny. It's known, but do you feel like it's unknown? Like you have the experience, right? Of watching other people have kids. Like I wasn't there for any births. I think you were there for your sisters.
I was there for 2 births.
Kids,
and so, my niece and my nephew.
And then like I've seen my parents, raise my sister from a young age to my current age, and you watch people get raised, and I've noticed how other people raise their kids. So it's not like we don't have that experience. It's just like, I feel like people as a whole, we're scared just because of the change of status.
Yeah, it's kind of like getting married.
Yeah.
Like 1 minute you're single, the next you're married, and it happens like
it's an instant thing.
Yeah,
like it's coming.
You're not a parent, then you're a parent, and there it is. And there's no turning back, really. I mean, I guess sort of, but not really.
It's instant, but not instant. Like, you get a year of being engaged, then you're married.
Yeah.
It's like you're the prep, but you did.
Like, nothing can prepare you for it.
You got 9 months to be pregnant.
Not really.
And then you had the baby.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. I guess that's true. You have prep time, but you don't.
Yeah, but anyway, so yeah, that was like the time where I was like, okay, we're going to do this. So we started taking the ovulation test. And I started like using those to track when I was ovulating. I think like what else? Like I think I started becoming like gung ho about it. And I think the next month was our anniversary too. And I think we were gonna be like off for a week. And that week of our anniversary happened to be like around my ovulation time too. So I was like, all right, we're gonna do it like this day, this day, this day, this day.
crazy woman.
I was like, I'm gonna get pregnant.
Let's go. That's I'm
going to get pregnant.
I can feel the
the
gung-ho-ness.
Yep. So that was that. I mean, we did all the things that the people do to get a baby.
Of course.
And like I remember like after that week, our anniversary week, and we were on vacation and we were, doing the married things, I was like, I'm pregnant. Like I was so sure. I was so sure, But the thing is, what people don't say enough of, I think, they don't talk about, is like the obsession that you can really get into when you are trying for a baby. Mm-hmm. And I don't know like if this is a man thing too, or if it's just women, because I've been a part of TTC groups like on Facebook and stuff like that, and on apps, and so I know like the lengths that we will go to get a baby. Mm-hmm. Like you will try this, you will take these supplements, you will track, the holding your legs up in the air, like all the stuff, right? And I was that person at that point.
She did get there.
I became that person.
I was not obsessive about it. I
was not.
I was on the train with her, but I wasn't like, oh, let me join these groups, let me get all this information. I did do research on certain things, I will say that, but I wasn't like, oh, it's the 14th day, I'm tracking it, let's go. It's gotta be within the moons up in the sky.
Okay.
She wasn't to that point, but I'm just saying, still, it's...
Yeah, I was starting to go down a hole, and that was just the beginning of it, honestly. But so I think it was like maybe like 2 weeks. So in the TTC community, it's called the 2-week wait, where between ovulation and your period, you're obviously waiting, because during that point of your during the 2 weeks before your period is like inception, and that's when... I don't know why I kept saying inception in this video. My brain was trying to say implantation, but for some reason my mouth couldn't get it out. So when you hear me say Inception, just know that's not what I'm talking about. Although it is a really good movie. It's like Inception, and that's when sperm meets egg and baby starts to form. Mm-hmm. Baby is, boom, there, right? And so that's the 2-week wait between the time that you're like, oh, am I pregnant? Am I pregnant? When do I take a pregnancy test to find out if I'm pregnant? And like in that time, like I started having like symptoms, and of course like in the TTC community, like every symptom is like, oh, I could be pregnant. Like, oh, if I'm spotting, oh, that could be my period, but it could be pregnancy. Or, oh, if I feel nauseous, or, oh, like, my body was weird today, like maybe I conceived. So
it sounds very anxious.
It is like that's what I'm trying to say.
Like, the whole time like this, it's like
terrible. Like it is terrible. Or maybe that's just my experience. I don't want to put that on everybody else, because some people maybe really like it. Most of the people that I have been in communication with about it hate it. Like it's like I forget what it's called, but it's like the 2-week wait from hell. Sorry. Like it really kind of is. No, people like get anxious about it. It is very
I'm sitting there all the time while you were talking through that, and I was like, oh, that sounds very anxious.
It is very anxiety inducing. I think
I would have not liked it if I knew all that information.
Oh no.
I was unaware about a lot of that, but
no, like that was it. That was it. And I was in there, with the people on my Facebook groups and stuff, like, oh, who's on the 2-week wait? Like, is everybody, like, and people are just commenting about their symptoms, and, oh, I was in it, okay? And this was like maybe month 2 that I was in it. So I was having these symptoms, and like one day I went to work and I felt terrible. Like I remember I thought I had COVID, like I had chills, I think I had a fever. And part of me was like, this is not...
This was all during COVID, actually.
Yeah, this is 2021, so it's in the middle of the pandemic. And I was just like, oh, like I feel bad, but maybe it's just I'm pregnant. That was how insane I was. Like, I had COVID symptoms, and I was like, it could just be pregnancy, like you never know. But
Could be.
Like, I also started to have more like, I remember I had a babysitting gig, like, the day I was really, really sick, and I had to cancel because I just was like, I need to go lay down.
Did you
I
tell
felt
me you might be
so
pregnant?
bad. So, as a matter of fact, you know what? She sent me a message, and I was like, hey, I don't feel good. She was like, oh, no, a few days later when I saw her, she was like, oh, I was like, maybe Crystal is pregnant. Because that's how much it was like, everybody at that time was like insinuating, like, oh, when you guys gonna, maybe you're pregnant, or you look like you gained a few pounds, maybe you're pregnant.
It was ridiculous.
All the time.
I think I even got somebody
My
look at me and said,
coworkers.
Rob, you gained weight. Are y'all pregnant?
That's
Me gaining weight caused us to be pregnant. I'm sorry, that was a little rude.
That's funny. People say stuff though. That's really how it is.
I felt so upset about that.
That happens. But yeah, like I was just so sick, and I was just like, maybe I'm pregnant. But like I was also having more symptoms, and I won't share like all of them, but in my female area or whatever, where it was starting to mimic, like not necessarily a yeast infection, but maybe like something was not right. And you know, when you have a lot of sex, a lot of things could happen, and we had been, you know, fresh off our anniversary time, so I remember being like, okay, if I still have like pain down here and like other strange things that were happening, then I'll go to the doctor. So I think it took me like maybe another day or another, like I think it was, by that point my period was supposed to be coming. And I went to the doctor. I went to the urgent care because I was having like serious pelvic pains at that point. Like in my back area and my hip area, like was just kind of wrap around pelvic area pains. And the doctor told me that I had sprained my back muscle or something like that.
I remember that.
And I was like, oh, okay, like that's weird. Like I would feel my back pain like in the front too. And I mean, that was just his response. And while I was there, they did make me do a pregnancy test because I was having like a lot of, you know, symptoms in that area, and the pregnancy test was negative. So for me, I think that was like the first time I actually tested and was disappointed because I was so certain, you know, and yet I was still having these pains. So it was kind of like twofold disappointment. Like, okay, I'm not pregnant, my body's in pain, and I don't know what it is. So he told me it was the back pain, like I said, prescribed me some muscle relaxers or something like that. And like in the back of my head, I'm like, this doesn't make sense. Like, is it, like, why would I be feeling in my front, like in my front pelvic area, my back muscle, like I'm feeling my back muscle pain? Like that doesn't make sense. But you know, I went with it because he's a doctor and I'm not a doctor.
I didn't actually, when you told me that, I did not believe.
You didn't believe it?
No, because I was like, the way you were, it was like over the top pain, and I was like, this seems like a lot more than just back pain, and like there must be something seriously wrong with your whole back if you feeling it like that. So I was concerned. I was definitely concerned, but I wasn't sure because he was just saying it was like a light back sprain or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't believe that.
He gave me some muscle relaxers and was like, all right, here you go. Here you go. You're welcome. And so I think like I took the muscle relaxers and they really like worked for a little bit, but they never like really worked. And I remember talking to my mom, and my mom was like, maybe you need to go to the doctor and get a second opinion. And I think I was like, yeah, you're right. But like it was at that point, like weeks had passed, and like I was still feeling the pelvic pains. Like they weren't as bad as they had been when I went to see the doctor, but like it was like numbness, you know, like it was just it was painful, but it was like, okay, I can manage. He's giving me these muscle relaxers. They're kind of working at least to dim a little bit of the pain or like numb some of it, but it still went on. And I think at this point, it was like the end of the year, and I think probably about 2 months had passed at that point, right? No, maybe like
You were in pain for a while.
I was in pain for a while.
And I do know
it was months. It was months.
It was more than 2 months. I'm trying to think. It was a while, and I remember like because I was still dealing with my concern for you because I was just like, and then at one point you were like doing between muscle relaxers and ibuprofen and all that stuff. I was like, this is a lot she's taking. But I understand, like, you were in pain, and I get it. It was just kind of like, I'm not sure what is wrong.
Yeah. Keep in mind this whole time, like, so months at this point had passed since I went to the doctor to visit because I was in pain. And, like, keep in mind during this whole time, we're still TTC, trying to conceive.
Right.
And, you know, I'm doing the test, the ovulation test.
Still
I think...
test.
I want to say, did I pregnancy test? I'm not sure that I pregnancy test that often because I didn't like the feeling of disappointment that I got when I got the negative. So I think at that point I was not testing often, unless I went to the doctor. And at that point, I don't think I was going back. I was still in pain, but I wasn't going back. And I think it was the next year at this point. So I went to the doctor in October. And by January, I started, like, it was the end of January, and I started getting these really bad pains. Like, it was one day that I was, like, just almost huddled over at work. And I had texted my sister, because she's in the medical field, and I was like, hey, I'm having these pains. Like, what do you think it is? And I was still like, do you think I didn't ask her, but I was like, maybe I'm pregnant. Like, maybe these are pregnancy pains from, you know, inception. Because I was in my 2-week wait period at that time. And I asked her, and she was like, you need to go to the doctor because it could be an ectopic pregnancy. Because she had one.
What is that?
So an ectopic pregnancy is when you can get pregnant in your fallopian tube, I believe, like the egg forms in there, and what basically can happen, and I'm not like well researched in this, so I could be butchering it, but it can, your fallopian tube can rupture, or your ovary can rupture, and it can be very, very painful. So for me, I was like, oh, what if that's the case? Like, I'm pregnant and this could be very bad. So I need to go to the emergency right now. Like, I don't even think I told you I was going. I told you when I was at the doctor. Yeah, I didn't even tell him.
Imagine this.
I was like, I gotta go right now.
I get not even a call. I get a text saying, hey, babe, I'm at the emergency room right now. Just wanted to let you know. It was kind of like that. It was like very like short, simple, and like no details. I'm just like, wait, emergency room for what? What's going on? I know she's in pain. I'm just like, maybe something serious has happened and my wife is dying.
Yeah.
You already know how I go.
Yeah.
I definitely.
Yeah.
So, any little.
But I think I was like, I don't want you to come though, because I think you were somewhere.
You should give me more details. You know how my mind goes sometimes.
I know, but like, I was okay. I was just in pain. Like, I just needed answers.
Then she didn't answer calls or texts after that. You gonna text me something like that and then not? She texted me. She in the emergency room, and then I didn't get a response until like an hour or two later.
They was doing stuff. They was doing the tests and stuff.
By that time, I was in panic mode.
I'm sorry, that's true. Yeah, well, like we said, we had to work on communication because we were not that great at it. Like
certain times,
it was
were
a big deal, but I'm very good at making.
Certain moments it was amazing. Sometimes, like certain things, like that was a fail moment.
Yeah,
we're still getting better, but you know,
we've gotten a lot better since.
Yes.
But yeah, so I was at the doctor, and in my head I was like, what if I'm pregnant and it's an ectopic pregnancy and all this stuff, and I'm going crazy, but I'm still like, but I could be pregnant, so that's good. And of course, when I get there, the first thing they make me do is take a pregnancy test. You know, they do blood work, all that stuff. And he comes back and he tells me I'm not pregnant. The pregnancy test was negative. And of course, like at that point, like the disappointment was starting to like, I don't know, like it was doing something to me every time I got the negative. And I think it was just digging a deeper hole every time. And I wasn't really talking about that with anyone, but that's another story. There's another video. We'll talk about that more later. But yeah, so I was there and I wasn't pregnant, and yet there was this pain, and I was pretty sure it was not a back muscle sprain like the other doctor had said. So he runs, I think at that point, oh, you weren't there, so you don't know. I think at that point,
I was not there.
I think at that point,
we've established that.
He told me it could be cysts. Like, he did a pelvic exam on me, and he was like, they could be ovarian cysts. Like, look, this is the options you have. You go to the gynecologist, find out, or we could do a CT scan and we'll find out now. And for me at that point, like, this pain had been for months. And I was just like, I need answers now. Like, I came here for answers. Tomorrow I gotta go to work and still be in pain. Like, I need answers. I just need somebody to tell me something. So I opted with the expensive CT scan. And they, run you through the machine and all that stuff. Put iodine, I think, in your body. And it was a process. And I waited for maybe like an hour after that for the results. And then the results came back and they told me I had fibroids. So at that point, I asked the doctor, like, could that be why I'm not getting pregnant? Like, is that a possible reason? And he was like, well, yes, but, it depends on where they are, or it depended on a lot of things at that point. And I remember feeling like kind of devastated. Like, on the one hand, it was like, okay, like, I have answers. Like, this is what I came for. I came for answers, but
it's not what you wanted to hear.
Yeah, like, you don't want to hear, like, you've been trying for something so hard, like, almost, what's the word, like, pointlessly? Like, you were doing all this stuff and, like, you were never going to get pregnant because this is stopping you. This is in the way. Yeah. And also, I think I just didn't know. Like, I didn't have enough experience with fibroids and with, like, reproductive issues and stuff like that. I mean, I had gone the months before to the gynecologist, so it seemed like everything was fine, but there was that. Also, it was I was angry because the other doctor had told me it was my back. I had back pain.
I told you.
Muscle strain.
Something was wrong with that. And when your mama told you to get a second opinion, I was like, yes, please do. Because they don't sound like they know what they're talking about.
Yeah. And I remember...
They did not know.
Yeah.
You've had plenty of people tell you it wasn't your back after that. So.
Yeah. I mean, doctors don't know everything, which that I had to learn in itself. But I just remember, like, feeling really deeply sad, and I think the doctor left, and I wanted to cry, but I was like, no, I can't cry here because, they're going to come back, they're going to see me crying. So I think, like, on the way home, I think I might have texted you and let you know. I called my mom and my sister on the way home, and my mom was basically telling me, like, her history with fibroids because it can be, genetic. My sister was giving me, like, her history and stuff. And at that point, they knew that we were trying for kids. So, but I don't think they knew, like, how devastated I was. Because I remember literally quietly crying while I was on the phone with them. Because I didn't want them to know how, like, depressed it made me feel. Like, I was devastated.
I don't think I knew.
You didn't. Like, I did a very good job during most of our TTC journey of just holding it in and not telling anybody how I felt. And at that point, I think I knew, like, okay, I need to go to therapy because, like, the anxiety, like, the tailspin that I had gone into just from, like, doing all the things to try to have a baby, and over the course of, at this point, when I was at the doctor, it had been almost a full year since I had gotten off of birth control. Yeah. And it had been about a good 6 months since I had gone to the OBGYN for that first visit and officially started, like, tracking and trying. So to me, like, a year off birth control is, in the medical field, essentially is termed as infertility. And I had knew that through my research. So for me, it was always like, okay, if I hit this month and we're not pregnant, then we need to go to a fertility doctor and see what's wrong. Because it'll have been a year, they say you are basically infertile if you've been off birth control for a year and aren't pregnant. So I knew I had hit that year mark, and I was like, okay, well, this is it. This is why. Like, for me, it was just like, okay, now what? Like, now what do I have to do? Like, what are we going to have to go through to get our baby? And I was like, I think that was the beginning of me not being in a good place mentally.
Okay.
Like, I will say that. And I didn't know how to express this to anybody. So it was just, it was the beginning of a lot. It was kind of in the middle, but for me, that was like, what was like, oh, I mean, it started our fertility process, you know.
Yeah. I definitely when you got your information and came back to me, I guess it was one of those things that prompted me to kind of figure out, you know, how was my body, you know, if there was anything going on with me, and to get myself checked and to know the full picture of what we were kind of working with, which I'm not going to get into in this video.
Yeah,
but
that'll be part 3.
Yeah, 3.
Yeah, because this is part 2,
Yeah,
right?
it's part 2, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be
Sorry.
part 3.
Part 3. Sometimes you forget.
Yeah. But yeah, so that was the beginning. That was our first year trying to conceive. And for most people out there, you know, they go through more, they go through less. But I feel like the feelings and the constant roller coaster of it, the ups, the downs, are pretty much all the same. And I think at this point, I don't think my relationship with God was very strong. Like, I knew him, and I went to church, and I prayed to him, but like, I don't think he was my first go-to.
That's fair. That is fair.
You know, like, I should have been calling on him for the whole thing, you know, but I wasn't. I was very much like, I have this in control. Like, I can affect when I get pregnant, how I get pregnant, how I have this child. Like, I got all of
I
this.
think we both were.
God is the backup plan, but I got it.
The control seat. God has had to humble me a lot.
No. Let's be honest. I even thought I could control him.
She did.
And his feelings about it. Like, because obviously, like, I need you to make a baby, but I don't think I did a good job of consulting you.
Yeah,
it was kind of like, hey,
about
we're having sex on day 12, day 14, day 16, so let's do this. I need you.
There was a moment in time, I think plenty of times, I definitely, I won't say felt bitter, but I definitely was just like, I don't like this woman right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, this is ridiculous. Yeah.
I was insanity. I was the definition of insanity. I don't know if that's okay to say. I'm sure it's not politically correct, but I was not in my right mind. Like, for those last 6 months of our first year, I was not in my right mind. Like, that's why I knew when I got that information, I was like, I need to go to therapy. I need to talk to somebody about this, because now, like, I was on this one-track mindset for the last 6 months. We're gonna have a baby. This is what we're doing. And it kind of just like blew up in my face.
Which I think when people take control, usually does.
Yeah. Yeah, you can say that one again for people in the back.
I think when when people try to take control over stuff that we don't control at all, that it usually blows up in their face.
Yeah.
We are in partnership with him.
Mm-hmm.
Like, what's the word? I've heard. So he placed us here, the steward. Not like we ruled through.
Not to own.
Yeah, we don't own.
Yeah.
So when we try to take ownership, it's gonna be a problem. Like, you steward as much as you want. You got rulership, you don't have ownership. So you can't act like the owner. It's kind of like how you said, like, you wanted to control me. Like, you don't own me, but I am yours and you are mine, and we are his. So in that, there's like, I dedicate myself to you, just like I dedicate myself to him. Like, we're in the threefold, in my mind at least, we're in the threefold connection. Like, we're married to each other and with God. So
I'm there with you.
In that essence of things, like, nobody else is going to see parts of me that you do, because you're my half, and we are within him. So I don't own you, you don't own me, but there's certain responsibilities that I give, or things I give to you, because I won't say duty, but it is like a choice. It's a choice thing. It's not a have to thing. Like, with ownership, it's like I control, I decide, stuff like that. With my choice in choosing to love, choosing to be married, choosing to keep up the different things that we're supposed to keep up in marriage, like it's my choice to do.
Okay.
But it's also one of those things that I get to do.
So when you say that, you mean like in the context of what we went through?
So in the context of that, like in my mind, yes, there was like certain aspects like you're trying to control, but like for me, I had to internalize that away from like me getting super bitter. I had to internalize that like okay, I may not like how she's approaching this right now, but there's blessing in this aspect. Like I have a beautiful wife who I love. Yes, she's acting a little crazy right now, but I get to be married. I get to go on this journey with her to have kids. Like that is like I was looking at the blessings and the things I have to be thankful for in that. Like, you know.
So you still liked me during that period of time?
I mean, you could like somebody and not like them at the same time.
That's
it's a
true.
contradiction, but you can have those feelings.
That is true. That is true.
I didn't like the way you were going about things, but that doesn't mean I didn't like you. It's also
Fair
like
enough.
saying I might have been tired of like this whole schedule thing you had, but that doesn't mean I didn't like having sex. That's just the way that works.
Transparency.
So you know.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you got some enjoyment out of it because I was very much, and I'm sure this will be another video because this one's running a bit long, but I don't even know that I was like enjoying that part of it.
I mean, it was becoming like work. I will say that it was becoming tedious, and I was just like, okay, we're gonna have to change something here because at some point this is getting to be a bit much, and it's not as fun, and it's just going to get to the point where we're both going to not want to do this because it's like, oh, we gotta do that. Okay, it's that time again. I think at one point it did feel that way to me. I think at one point I was just kind of like, oh, it is that day. All right, okay. Gotta clock in.
Clock in for work.
Gotta clock in.
Time to go to work.
Right. Oh, we're done? Okay, cool. Clocking out. I'm gonna rest now.
You know what that reminds me of? Like, and I think I remember, like right before we got into the craziness, or before I went to the doctor and the doctor, you know, recommended these things to do to start having a baby. I remember having a conversation with your sister, and I think she asked us, like, were we trying for a baby? And my answer was like, yeah, but you know, I think she was like, no, like, are you tracking? Are you doing all that stuff? And I was like, no, because you know, like we're trying, but we're not trying because we don't want to take the fun out of it. And I think I really wish, because that was my instinct, you know, like that was almost, I feel like that was God speaking to me, telling me the way he planned it, the way he wanted me to do it. And I knew that. And then I went on this tangent and my will took over and like, almost like what everybody else was saying to me too, because like the advice of the doctor and like everybody else being like, you need to be pregnant, like have a baby, like all of that took over. And I went on this whole tangent and path that I don't think I was ever supposed to be on. And that was why I was so miserable.
Like you said, I like the way you said that. You said he had a will for you and you took your will and chose not to follow his will.
That's it.
And your will led to you feeling in misery.
Yep. Miserable.
Well, where his will would have led to us remaining in bliss and fun.
Bliss and fun. The intention of marriage, although marriage is not always fun, but you know.
That's why I like to say, hey, you gotta following his will in your marriage will lead to bliss and fun.
Yeah. We had to learn that. It was a process.
We're there now.
Baby, I'm so glad, because I'm glad to be out of whatever that thing was. Ooh. But anyway, so that's our story. Long story long.
It's not finished yet. That's
year one. It's not finished yet. That's year one.
We're going to get into year 2 on the next part.
Yeah.
So definitely stay tuned. Keep watching. Anything else you want to say?
If you guys need to talk or reach out to someone who understands what you're going through, if you're going through something like what we went through, we do have an email for you. It's called transparenttownsends@gmail.com.
Yep.
You can reach out to us that way. We will do our best to respond, you know, if you just literally just need to talk. Like we will try to be a safe place for you. Like we said in our past videos, like we feel we've been led to tell our story because God is telling us to do this and to just shine a light, you know, on the things that we've been through to make the process not so shameful. Yeah. So reach out if you need it. Do the YouTube things like and
share,
subscribe,
all that
share.
Stuff. if you like the video,
All
if you
that
like
stuff.
us, if you like this channel and you want to keep up with it, do those things. If you don't, okay, cool. You check this out,
Whatever.
and I mean, it's awesome
Scroll
that you
up.
finished this whole video, but you didn't like us. But you know, we appreciate everybody, and we love you guys. So we'll check you out next time.
Bye bye.